76a, trying to figure out the difference between vessels that are acquired from the worshippers and the vessels that are used for kachim, for the sacrifices. So our mission talks about libun, you have to purge it, and that mission talks about hagala. Talks about hagala, which really means to really immerse it in hot water. So at one point we decided that maybe the difference is, well, hagala doesn't really mean hagala; it means really just rinsing cold water. So to that, Rava says, we're up to right after that. Amrle Abaye midam. Amrle Abaye midami. Yeah, so Rava suggested maybe hagala means shtifa marika, rinsing out. Amrle Abaye midami marika v'shtika betzone and hagala v'chaman. Abaye didn't like that. Just reviewing for a second. Abaye says that we don't like that. The word hagala is referring to hot water. So Elam Abaye yagil of reyo. Really like this. Tana hacha libon v'huadin lahagala. The Mishnah here about idol worshippers, that you buy their vessel, it only says purging, but it refers to also immersing in hot water. Tana hasan hagala, there by kachim, by sacrificial offerings, it says hagala, but it's not exclusively immersing in hot water, it's also purging. So Amrle Rava, if that's true, so what do you want to do? Basically, you have two Mishnayos, and you want one to shed light on the other. You want this Mishnah that says purging to learn from that Mishnah that you wanted to refer to immersing in hot water. And you want that Mishnah that says immersing in hot water to learn from this Mishnah that it needs purging also. So Rava says if you're going to do that, there's a much better way to do that. Teach two of them in one Mishnah, teach one of them in another Mishnah, and then you can pattern them after. So if our Mishnah would have said you require both purging and immersing in hot water, then maybe you could say that by kachim, you'll need purging and immersing in hot water, or vice versa. If you say by kachim, it needs purging and immersing in hot water, and our Mishnah only mentions purging, then you could learn it also refers to immersing in hot water. But if you're going to have these two Mishnayos shed light on each other, teach two of the requirements in one Mishnah, one requirement in another Mishnah, and then you say this phrase, Valema Yagid, then your friend could tell you, meaning then your other Mishnah could shed light on the law. But if you have two separate requirements, the simple understanding is it's exclusively purging and it's exclusively immersing in hot water, not that you need both. So Ella Amr, every time the Mishnayos will do this, so it's going to be very complicated. If every time it teaches a special law, and another Mishnah that's similar teaches its own special law, you're always going to say, oh, let's just shed light on each other. It really means both. It really means both requirements. You can't do that. So really, Elam Aravo, another answer. Kachim Hainu, the reason why by sacrificial offerings, you only need to have immersion in hot water. Remember, if you have a chatas offering that you cook in a pot or in the pan, let's say you fried it in the pan. So now, if that, after a day, the chatas offering is forbidden to eat anymore, it's called nosar, you have to get rid of it. So now that flavor of the chatas in the pan is a day old. If you were to cook it again with another offering, you're putting nosar into this new offering, and then it's going to be prohibited. So the reason why there all you need is immersion in hot water is because Kidder of Nachman, Amar Barbu, the Amar Kol Yom B'Yom Nase Giyul L'Chaveiro. Rav Nachman said, and Rav is going with this, is that every day they use the vessels so frequently that every day, since they're always using it, it's removing the flavor. So you don't have to worry about that it's been unused for 24 hours. They continuously use those pans for the sacrificial offerings. So before the chatas is cooked 6 a.m. So whatever. Yeah, 6 a.m. let's just say. So 6 a.m. it's cooked. So now let's just say the time is 24 hours later. By 6 a.m. the next day, so we're worried about no sun, okay? But by 12 p.m. that day or by 6 p.m. that day, they use that same pan for something else. So the flavor of the chatas went into the shlamim, but it's not a prohibited flavor because it hasn't been 24 hours. So there's nothing to worry about. So kol yom yom nase gil lechaveru. So says the Gemara. Well, let's break it down a little bit. Kenaf shlomim ashlamim. You have 2 days to eat. The kaven de l'shnei yamim misachli. So since you have 2 days to eat it, mekame dene have noser have gil. So then I understand a shlomim. So on Monday 6 a.m. you cook the shlomim. Fine. So now you have until, let's say, Wednesday 6 a.m. for the forbidden flavor to take place. And then if it's imparted into something, it's going to be forbidden. So you have 48 hours. Well, in those 48 hours, you brought other offerings with that same pan. So you have nothing to worry about. But the one that's more risky, chatas, you have 1 day and 1 night. So achatas ki mevashel b'ha'idna, chatas have no sir. You have 1 day to cook it. So very likely that after a day, you're going to use it for something else. And now the forbidden flavor of that chatas, which is in the pot, is going to go and impart into your current sacrifice and then render it forbidden. So, ha'idna chatas have no sir. Ki hadar mevashel b'lamachar. O shlamim, o chatas, kapolit no sir, the chatas. So what's going to happen is you're going to do a chatas, and then it's going to end up becoming nosar. And then when you cook a chatas or a shalom later, you're going to invalidate either of those sacrifices. Yeah. Deha'idna bechatas. O shlamim o chatas kapolit. Kiadam ravasha balamachar o shlamim o chatas. So kapolit nosar the chatas ha'idna bechatas shalom. Yeah. The nosar is going to go and impart itself into the future chatas or shalom offering of tomorrow. So that's not going to work. So don't worry, we have a system. The system is as follows. Basically, what you're going to do is you're always going to follow after you're going to do a chatas and then a shalom. You're going to immediately follow the chatas offering with a shalom offering. So that's just going to buy you more time. So whenever you cook the chatas, right after it's cooked the shlomim, now you just gain 48 hours. That's going to be the goal. Yeah. The chimivashal bechatas ha'idna. Right now you're cooking a chatas. Hadar mevashal ba ha'idna shlomim. Then do the shlomim soon after, within a 24-hour period. Then the chatas the lemachar. Then tomorrow do the chatas. Because the last thing that was cooked was a shlomim, so you have 48 hours. So then let's say on Monday morning you did a chatas. Monday afternoon you did a shlomim. So now you just push the time you have 48 hours now from Monday afternoon. You have until Wednesday afternoon. So on Tuesday, no problem. Do a chatas. So the chatas de l'machar. Then do a shlomim. Then the chatas de l'machar. So then what's going to happen is the chatas of Tuesday and the shlomim of Monday are going to go finish at the same time on Wednesday. The shlomim de asmal, they're going to finish their time at the same time. The hadar mevashal, shlomim de l'machar, and then do tomorrow shlomim. So on Monday you'll do a shlomim and a chatas. And then on Tuesday you'll do a shlomim. So you're going to keep pushing it off. You're never going to have a problem with milsar. So it says Gemara, it's too good. That's so good. Then you're always good. You'll never need to immerse your pot in boiling hot water because there's never been any forbidden mixtures that have been imparted because you keep pushing it off. If so, then you don't need any immersing in hot water. Oh, kasha, difficulty. Difficulty. Kasha is always a difficulty, but it's not going to knock us out. A tiyufta is like a KO, and you can't get back up from that. So a kasha, I hear, good kasha, but the answer is going to hold true. Rav Papa sounds like he has another answer to this contradiction. He says, Rav Papa Amar, hayi karid, hayi lo karid. The vessels that are often used, so because they're used a lot, they are karid. They the other way. The vessels that are not always used, like the ones in our Mishnah, the idolaters' vessels, those are not used so much. They become hardened. I mean, the taste goes more inside of the pot. Yeah. Yeah. So therefore, Rashi explains that the absorption of the taste becomes much more absorbed in the pot when it's not used as much. However, when it's consistently used a lot, then it doesn't get as much absorbed, and therefore, you would only need to do immersion in hot water. You would not need purging. One more answer. Rav Ash Amr La'olam Kida Amrin Meikar. Like our very first answer, which was difficult. What was that answer? Is that by touching, by the sacrificial offerings, it's a permitted taste that goes in. Right now, you cook a chatas or a shlomim, there's nothing forbidden going into the pot. It's only after a 24 or 48-hour period does that taste become forbidden. But right now, what enters is permitted. The problem with that was, well, who cares what enters? When it emits into the new offering, right now it's forbidden. So let's see. The olam kid aron meikar. Just like we said originally. Originally we said whatever, it depends on what goes in. So since a permitted flavor goes in, you only need immersion in hot water. Our Mishnah is a prohibited flavor goes in, you need purging. So the olam kid aron meikar haka terabala haka isurabala. It depends what goes in, permitted or forbidden flavor. We asked the question, the kapolet, isura kapolet. Who cares what goes in? Once you cook it for the second time, the whole thing's equal. Both forbidden flavors are coming out into the sacrifice. Now it's no, sir. And by the idol worshippers' vessels, it was always prohibited. So that was our question. Now we say, so be'ena de kapolet, lo isela isura be'ene. And a very interesting distinction is that at the time that the forbidden taste goes into the food, so let's say you have a chatas and then you waited 24 hours and now the pot has nosar flavor inside of it, but that nosar flavor never had any substance of prohibition, right? It was never a prohibited substance. It was a permitted substance, meaning the actual food that went in was permitted. So when it became in its status, when it became forbidden, it was never any food there. It was all just time and made it forbidden. The idolater's food right away is forbidden. So the taste that comes from a forbidden food is more stringent than a taste that developed on its own. By a chatas, no forbidden food emitted any flavor. It was permitted flavor, and then over time it became permitted. That's less stringent. That's more lenient. That taste is less. It sounds like it's less absorbed. Tosfos talks about a very practical example of this. Pesach. Before Pesach, you have vessels that you use for cooking chametz, but it's not chametz because it's January, February. Nothing wrong with that. So you put in permitted food that you've cooked, totally permitted. Now comes Pesach. So the time, the calendar, so to speak, prohibited that taste. That's just like this. You cooked with a chatas offering, permitted. Time, in this case 24 hours, is what prohibited it. Do you have to re-immerse? You have to purge your Pesach vessel? Yes or no? That would very much depend on this. Depends if this time prohibited or the actual taste came from a forbidden substance. Sounds like we're more stringent when it came from a forbidden substance versus over time it became prohibited. That's very, very interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, va'ad kama milabda. So we said you have to purge. So how much do you purge it? Do you just put a blowtorch for a second? At this, at least in Yerushalayim, before Pesach, there's a lot of numerous Hasidic places and others that have their purging stations set up. There's lines and lines of people, and there's like 15-year-old kids being watched with a huge torch. So, va'ad kama milabda, and how much you have to purge? Amar Rav Mani, achet asher plus some. I don't know if it has to be physically remove a layer, but it has to be hot enough that, I guess probably, yeah, has to be hot enough that it removes the outer layer. The outer layer.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me.
Until sparks fly. It could be that's the same thing. Maybe that's a sign. You're not actually always removing the layer. Let's say you have a metal pot. You're not removing the layer of the metal, but the point is it's hot enough that I guess it could remove the layer if it was a material that's removed. But not all pots or that material. So the ketzad magila. Okay, so now how do you immerse a pot into hot water? Well, depends on the size of your pot. That's easy. Small pot into big pot. So a small pot, you want to kosher it. You put into a boiling hot big pot. What's the problem? What do you do with your big pot? Your cauldron. Yeah, some of these places that make cholents for hundreds of people. Those things are huge, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard to find something always bigger than that. So yorigdola, what do you do with a big pot? So Toshma, the Brisa says, Lahu duda, the have beit rab, the have beit rab akvia. So there's a certain big pot, a cauldron that was in the academy or in the house or akvia. So what did he do? A hader le gedanta. So the problem is going to be the rim. How do you kosher the rim of a big pot? Because as long as you get it if you fill it up with hot water, it's not going to cover the top of the rim. So it falls away right away. What do you do? So he plastered it with dough, with dough around it. And now what he gained was that the hot water can go up in the pot and stay above the rim, protected by the outer layer of dough. You just basically raise the pot like another inch, let's say, or half an inch. So now it's going to kosher that rim also. So it got to Delisha Apuma, Umal Yuhamaim, and then he filled up with hot water. And then what happened? The Artacha. So he filled up with hot water, and then it boiled. Amar Rava was so impressed. Who's so smart? Who's such a wise person to be able to kosher things? If not for Akia, who's such a great guy, such a wise man. So who kasavar kibolo kachpolta? This is the famous line that the way it absorbs is the way you has to emit. Meaning, how did the rim absorb forbidden flavor? Ma bolo benitzotos. It got splattered. It wasn't cooked. You don't cook. The rim doesn't cook. But the rim gets splattered from forbidden mixtures, forbidden tastes. So it got splattered. So too, the way we're going to emit the flavors is, so to speak, through splattering. Now, it's not really splattering, but it's the water is going to keep hitting the rim. So
one of these that kind of
I think it's like a real compliment. Yeah.
Just take a ladle.
No, it's not like an insult. It's a real. Why not take a ladle and pour it? That's going to get involved in. Okay, that's interesting. I think that gets involved in what we had a few days ago. What's the status of pouring? Is that like a primary vessel or like a secondary vessel? But it could be. I just realized now it could be that in Shabbos, Tosfos brings this as an example. Why'd they do this? Just pour. Oh, you see, from that pour is not going to work. It could be this is part of the discussion. Yeah. Okay. Hasakin. So the way you clean up a knife is hasakin. Shafa v'hitora. You smoothen it. Sounds like you put it into the ground, then you smoothen it, and now it's going to be permitted. So the simple understanding probably is if you have cold non-kosher food, it's a way of like smoothing out the edge of the knife, and you're good to go. The question is, would this work for flavor that was emitted into the knife, or no? That's too much of a novelty. That you have to have a hot water to do.
Right.
Yeah. So Amar Rav Ukva Bar Chama v'noa asara pa'amim bekarka. 10 times in the ground. You got to put in the ground 10 times. Amar Rav Huna Breder V'Shua bekarka ubekarka she'ena avoda. But it's only ground. I'm assuming it means it's not until. It's not until it hasn't been worked on. Meaning because then it's too soft, right? So you need hard ground. You can't have soft ground, right?
You haven't worked on it.
You haven't worked on it yet, right? So nowadays, what would that be? I mean, our floors are so hard. What, tiles? No. What would you do nowadays? What would be equivalent?
Yeah.
In the backyard.
In the backyard.
The grass, just not such soft grass. Okay. So a new Sunday activity, yeah.
That's a big risk.
A new Sunday activity, purifying our knives.
Big risk. There you go. I mean, this
yeah. So Amar of Kahana ubesakin yafesh ein bagumos. A good knife doesn't have any that's not serrated. So that only works with a sakin yafesh ein bagumos. Doesn't have any holes in them. Yeah, because if it has any holes, or then the fat can get in. Right, then the fat can get in. So Kanyanami Hachi, so a brisa supports his statement. Sucking yafish ain bagumos no azar a knife that is smooth, doesn't have any holes or breaks in the knife. So no it's azar you put it 10 times in the karka. If it has any holes or breaks, then the fat is where the fat's gonna get inside, and then you're gonna be in trouble. Amravuna or not, use hot water. Amravuna breder shua lechel batsonein. So this is all good when you're eating something cold, but if you were eating with the knife and cut something hot that was forbidden, this is not going to help you. Ki hadam Rabbi Yehuda. Oh, so now there's the final story. Ki ha de Mar Yehuda ubati Bartuvi. So Mar Yehuda, he was a Jew. Bati Bartuvi, we'll see. We're not sure. Maybe he was an Eved. But Habu Yasvi Kamei the Shavar Malka. They were sitting in front of the Shavar Malka. Aisul Kamayu Esroga. A esrog was brought in front of them. Pasak achal. So he cut off a piece and ate it. Pasak v'havlei. And then he cut off a piece and he gave it to the Bati Bartuvi. Then Hadar Datsa Asarzin. He took the knife and he put it into the ground 10 times. Then Pasak, he cut again a piece of the esrog, and Havlei leMar Yehuda. And he gave a piece to Mar Yehuda. So you see, in between the two people, he had to put it into the ground 10 times. Amar le Bati Bartuvi, Vahu Gavra Labar Yisrohu. He's like, 1 second. For me, you didn't do this. You cut a piece for yourself, and you cut a piece for me. Then all of a sudden, you put the knife into the ground 10 times, and then you cut it for Mar Yehuda. So Bartuvi's like, hello, am I not Jewish? He's talking about himself in the third person. So, Baho Gavra Labar Yisrohu, like, hello, this guy, me, I'm not Jewish. So I do. So Amar le. So I tell them back, listen, Mar Kimle Begave. Mar, I know for sure is Jewish. This is Mar Yehuda. For him, I didn't. You, I don't know. Umar lo kimle begave. Why did he know? Maybe he really didn't know. Some say he was like an Eved. He wasn't sure of his status. He never was freed yet. He wasn't sure if he was fully Jewish. So, okay. So that was that. Ikeda Amri, another version of the answer that the Shvur Malka gave back to this Bartuvi was, Amrle, don't you remember? It's Yomi Avodah Zora. You remember what happened last night? What happened last night? So it was the way of the Persians, Rashi says, to when you're staying in the inn, to send you women. It would send you women. So what happened? I sent it to Mar Yehuda. He said, no thanks. I sent it to you, and you said, yes, please. So therefore, that's I'm not sure if you're Jewish. So they point out that that the Rambam, out of his 14 works, so the one that's called a Sefer HaKidusha of holiness, what's inside of it? 2 things: forbidden relations and forbidden foods. They point out that these 2 things are related: forbidden relations and forbidden foods, 2 distinctive qualities that separate and elevate a Jew from a non-Jew. Yeah. Hadron Allah Hasofer Espol, Leak Allah Masach Avodah Zora. Mazel. Yeah. I took a risk. Yeah, me neither. I did the same thing. There's no short document coming up. There's only 13 documents in the Masechta, but